Welcome to the tutorial over 2-4 writing linear equations. For your vocabulary, you're going to have slope-intercept form, and that's in the form of y equals mx plus b, where m represents your slope and b represents your y-intercept. Point slope form is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Now, the x1 and the y1 are going to be a normal point that you're given, and your m will be given as well. So of the 5 variables that you have, 3 will actually be replaced with numbers. You leave the regular y and the regular x alone. Parallel lines have the same slope, and perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. So on your practice, you'll be given some equation, and it'll say write a line that's parallel to the slope. So you will use the same slope that's in that line and write an equation. Or if it said write a perpendicular line, well, what you have to do is you have to look at the slope and you have to write the opposite reciprocal, and that's the one you use. So for example, if you had a slope of 2, now you can think of that as 2 over 1. When you flip it, that gives you your reciprocal, and you have to take the opposite sign. So 2 and negative 1/2 are opposite reciprocal slopes. Also, if you had 5, if you flip that fraction, you would get 1/5. Opposite would be negative 1/5. Okay, that's just an example of opposite reciprocal slopes. This is just a model of y equals mx plus b form, our slope-intercept form. Here on the line, you can tell that your y-intercept is here. You could count it, and that's how you get your b. And then, of course, your slope, you can find it by y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which you should know that from your previous lesson. Example number 1. Alright, so looking at this graph, we're going to see that the points on here are negative 1, 4, and 2, 3. And we're going to plug this into the slope formula. I'm just going to go ahead and label these x1, y1, x2, y2. It doesn't matter which one you label which, you just have to make sure you stay consistent. Okay, so my slope is 3 minus 4 over 2 minus negative 1. When you simplify that, you get a slope of negative 1/3. Alright, the next step to write it in slope-intercept form, we have to find our y-intercept. And the way you do that is you plug into your y equals mx plus b form. So I'm going to use the point 2, 3. And I'm going to plug in 3 for y equals, we found our slope, which is negative 1/3. Our x value is 2, and then we're left with just b. And what I did there is I just used y equals mx plus b. And I just plugged in one of my points for x and y, so that way I can figure out what b is. We get 3 is equal to negative 2/3 b. If I add 2/3 to both sides, that means b is equal to 3 and 2/3. Okay, so that is actually, and we have enough information to write my formula, which is y equals negative 1/3 x plus 3 and 2/3, which is my answer. Now I would like you to try a problem. Example number 2, write an equation of the line through the point 5, negative 2 with a slope of negative 3, 5. We're going to use point slope form, y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1, where 5, negative 2 is going to be my x1, y1, and my m is negative 3 over 5. And now we're going to plug and chug. We leave y alone, minus my y1, which is negative 2, equals m, which is negative 3 over 5, times x minus 5. And when you have point slope form, you can leave it just like this. You just need to make sure that you actually write this as y plus 2 is equal to negative 3/5 x minus 5. Now, you will be expected to actually turn this into slope-intercept form, so we're going to go ahead and do this. But if it says leave it in point slope form, this is the answer we're looking for. Now, in order to change this to slope-intercept form, we're going to distribute the negative 3/5, and we're going to get y plus 2 is equal to negative 3/5 x. When you distribute the negative 3/5 to negative 5, the negatives cancel out, the 5's cancel out, so you're left with a positive 3. And then we're going to subtract 2 from both sides, and we get y is equal to negative 3/5 x plus 1. this equation and this equation are the exact same thing, they just happen to be in two different forms. Now it's your turn. Example 3. What is the equation of the line through 2, -3 and -3, 7? Here, first we're going to find our slope, and we're going to treat this just like we did in the first problem. So first we find our slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I'm going to let the first point be x1, y1, and the second point be x2, y2. Again, it doesn't matter which one you let be which, just make sure you stay consistent. So we're going to get m is equal to 7 minus -3 over -3 minus 2. When you work that out, you get 10 over -5, which reduces to -2. Now, you can either use the first formula we use with the y equals mx plus b, or you can use point slope form. I'm going to use point slope form. Y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. I'm going to pick the point 2, -3 as my x1 and my y1 I'm going to plug in. So we have y minus -3 is equal to my slope, which I just found, which is -2, times x minus 2, because that was my x1. Now, when I simplify, this becomes y plus 3 is equal to, distribute the -2, we get -2x plus 4, and I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides to get y equals -2x plus 1, which is D. Now I would like you to try a problem. Let's talk a little bit about parallel and perpendicular lines. Here we have an example of two equations that are parallel, and as you can see, that both have a slope of 2. Now, the perpendicular lines, we have the 3 and the -1/3. They are opposite reciprocal slopes. If you took 3 times -1/3, you get -1. Okay, so that's what this definition means. Okay? Alright, let's try an example. Example 4. Write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that passes through 3, -2 and is perpendicular to the line whose equation is y equals -5x plus 1. And I'm going to change this problem. I want you to also write the parallel line as well. So I'm going to split this into two categories. We're going to find the parallel equation, and we're also going to find the perpendicular equation. So I'm going to start with the parallel equation. It means it needs to be the same slope as this equation. So I know that my m needs to be -5. And we know it needs to pass through the point 3, -2. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with point slope form, which is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. And then we're going to convert it to slope-intercept form. Y minus -2, which is my y value, is equal to -5 times x minus 3. Okay, now we're going to convert it to slope-intercept form. This becomes y plus 2 is equal to -5x plus 15. Subtract 2 from both sides, and we get an equation of y equals -5x plus 13. So this would be the parallel line. Alright, now we're going to write the perpendicular line. Now, if we look at -5x, we're not going to actually use -5 as my slope. We're going to use the opposite reciprocal. So if I write this over 1 and I flip it, I get 1 over 5, and it has to be the opposite sign. So we're going to use the slope 1/5. We're going to use the same point, 3, -2, and we're going to use y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1 again in order to get my equation. So I get y minus -2 is equal to my slope, which is 1/5, x minus 3. Now I'm going to simplify and put it in slope-intercept form. This becomes y plus 2 is equal to, I'm going to distribute, I get 1/5 x minus 3/5, and I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. and I'm going to go y equals 1/5 x minus 2 3/5. Now it's your turn. Thanks for watching the tutorial. Have a great day.